Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Emeka Omezurike, and we are continuing in the series of courses which we are learning. And today we'll be dealing with microbiology. Today we are going to discuss prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, the difference between them and what their features look like. Now, as I earlier said in my classes, every living cell is divided into one of two types of categories of cells. It's either a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell. Scientists came up with this method of categorizing cells because of the difficulty that they were facing in putting different cells into different categories. Now, the prokaryotic cells are the cells which we look at as primitive cells, while the eukaryotic cells, we look at them as more specialized cells. Now, examples of our prokaryotic cells are basically the bacterial cell and the cells of archaea. Examples of the archaea are methanogens, and the examples of our bacteria include Escherichia coli, include Bacillus subtilis, and many other bacteria as such. Now, the eukaryotic cells has many examples. Examples include our protists, such as the amoeba. We also have cells such as plant cells and animal cells, human cells. All these cells together collectively are looked at and seen and said to be eukaryotic cell. Now, the prokaryotic cell, what are the structures of the prokaryotic cell and what do they look like? The prokaryotic cell have unique cell structures, and in order to understand the prokaryotic cell, we must always think about the typical bacterial cell. Now, what are the features of this cell and what do they look like? The cell structure. First of all, a prokaryotic cell has a nucleoid region. That is, it does not have a well-defined nucleus. So it has a nuclear region. And what happens in the nuclear region? You have a condensation of nuclear materials into one area of the cell. And that area of the cell stains differently. That means that it looks different from the other areas of the cell. Now, the cell size of a prokaryotic cell has a cell size between 0.5 to 5.0 micrometers. Now, micrometers is the unit of measurement for cells. And in order to understand this well, you think of a meter. A meter in using a ruler, if you look at what a meter looks like. Now, if you divide that single meter, 1 meter, into a million places, that was what you call a micrometer. So a million places from 1 meter, dividing 1 meter into a million places is what we call 1 micrometer. Now, to give us better understanding of what we are saying, you look at a strand of hair, human hair. The thickness of a strand of human hair is about 70 micrometers, Yet the size of a bacterial cell is between 0.5 to 5.0 micrometers. That's why we continue to say that they are minute organisms that cannot be seen with the naked eye. They can only be seen with the help of the microscope. Now, prokaryotes have ribosomes. They have very small ribosomes, and these ribosomes help in protein synthesis, and they also help in the packaging of protein. Now, prokaryotes also have a peptidoglycan cell wall. They have a unique peptidoglycan cell wall, and this cell wall performs many functions in the prokaryotes. It helps the prokaryotes withstand pressure from the environment. It helps the prokaryotes to selectively determine what comes into the cell and what goes out of the cell. That is for the cell wall. Now, the prokaryotes are also involved in a lot of metabolic activities. Many metabolic activities. Now, these activities could either be anaerobic or aerobic, which means that these activities could either employ the use of oxygen, making them aerobic, or the use of it is done without oxygen, making them anaerobic. Prokaryotes are engaged in fermentative processes. They are engaged in many metabolic processes in order to keep the cells alive. And many of these processes we'll be discussing during the course of the channel. Now, like I said earlier, examples of the prokaryotes are your Escherichia coli, your Bacillus subtilis, your Clostridium. These are all bacteria. Then you have methanogens, which are archaea. Now, if we go to eukaryotes, on the other side, the eukaryotes, they are the more specialized cells. They are the cells that are not primitive. Rather, they've graduated in specialization, and they look more complex in nature than the prokaryotic cell. Now, what does the eukaryotic cell look like? Examples, like I said earlier, are your plant cells, animal cells, fungi cells. All these cells are eukaryotic cells. Now, eukaryotic cells have membrane-bound organelles. They have a lot of organelles inside the eukaryotic cells. These organelles include your nucleus, your mitochondria, the ribosomes, the lysosomes, all these organelles are present inside the eukaryotic cell. And these organelles are there to help the eukaryotic cell go through all its life functions. And this is a major difference between the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. The eukaryotic cell has membrane-bound organelles. Now, the eukaryotic cell has very large ribosomes, and the ribosomes, we refer to them as ATS ribosomes. In consequent classes, I'll explain the meaning of 70S, 80S, 28S, how we come, to have all these names of ribosome. Now, the eukaryotes also have endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum, they are surfaces which are usually attached or very close to the nucleus, and they help provide areas where ribosomes can attach to. And then the ribosomes are usually involved in protein synthesis. Now, the endoplasmic reticulum is also involved in lipid synthesis and metabolism. So all these processes together are what you have occurring in the eukaryotic cell. Now, the major difference which must be noted is that the eukaryotic cell has membrane-bound organelles. And what that means is that surrounding every single organelle, if you mention ribosome, lysosome, nucleus, every single organelle that exists in the eukaryotic cell is surrounded by a membrane. It is a unique feature of the eukaryotic cells, and it differentiates the eukaryotic cells from the prokaryotic cells. The eukaryotic cells also have functional cytoskeletons which are distinct, and these cytoskeletons help the cell in movement. It's like the cytoskeletons are usually made up of microtubules and microfilaments, and they help this cell for all the various cellular activities which is going to be involved in. Now, when we look at prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, we need to understand them fully well. The eukaryotic cell are at a higher level of specialization, and the prokaryotic cell at a lower level of specialization. We can just quickly run through some of the differences that exist between the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic cell. When you look at the nucleus, when you talk of the nucleus, for the prokaryotic cell, it does not have a membrane-bound nucleus. It doesn't have a well-defined nucleus. What it has is a nuclear region, so an area of the cell where the nuclear material is concentrated, and we refer to that area of the cell as the nucleoid region. That's what you have for the prokaryote. But in the eukaryote, it has a well-defined nucleus, and the nucleus can be seen clearly as distinct from other parts of the cell. Now, the prokaryote does not have organelles, no distinct membrane-bound organelles. It has structures within its cytoplasm that it uses to carry out activities, such as ribosomes are present and other structures are present. It has plasmids, has different other structures that are present, but it does not have well-defined membrane-bound organelles. This can be seen in eukaryotes. Eukaryotes have clearly defined membrane-bound organelles. So you have the nucleus, you have the mitochondria, you have the lysosomes, you have the Golgi apparatus. All these different organelles are distinct in the eukaryotic cell. Now, genetic materials for the prokaryotic cell usually, like the bacterial cell, usually has what we refer to as a single circular chromosome. One single circular chromosome is what is present in the bacterial cell. Then you have other extra chromosomal DNAs, which we as scientists refer to as plasmids. These are scattered in different areas of the cell, of the bacterial cell, conferring special properties on this bacterial cell. Meanwhile, in the eukaryotic cell, what we have is many and multiple linear chromosomes. If you think of the human cell now, the human cell has 23 pairs of chromosomes, making 46 chromosomes that the human cell has. So linear chromosomes, sometimes in pairs, sometimes singly, multiples of them is what we have in the eukaryotic cell. Now, for reproduction, the prokaryotic cell reproduces majorly by binary fission, majorly. It has other ways of exchanging genetic materials, but when it comes to reproduction, it's majorly by binary fission. The eukaryotic cell on itself has many means of reproducing, and then it has both sexual and asexual methods of reproduction that it uses to reproduce. So this brings us to the end of this class. We're just having a short recap on what prokaryotic cells are and eukaryotic cells are. Every living cell is divided into one of two. It can either be eukaryotic or it can be a prokaryotic cell, and they have distinct features that differentiates both of them. Thank you for listening to this lecture. Any questions you have, you can put them in the comments. Thank you and have a wonderful day.